to a new semester. It's amazing how quickly time has passed and also how slowly time has passed at the same time. And hopefully the new year finds you and your family, your college, your colleagues, everyone safe from the impact of COVID and all the things that are going around. I have only 4 updates for you this morning. The presentation that I'm going to send you later today is going to be a whole lot longer with a whole lot more information. But because we have a guest speaker this morning, I really want to give him the majority of the time. So I'm going to jump to these really quickly and we'll go from there. I'm assuming most of you know this information already, but if you do not know, we have a new system president, Mr. Thomas Stith III. His first day will be Monday. You'll see some highlights from his career here. He has a more extensive write-up on our system office webpage, as well as his LinkedIn page and things of that nature. We have not really met him outside of sort of the virtual meet and greet. And so we imagine that as he comes in, he'll be meeting with each division within the system office, talking about his agenda, really learning what we do and, providing his strategic plan and strategic vision as we move forward. So we're definitely excited to have him on board and we look forward to his leadership. Next, we were contacted by the office of the governor because our food banks and food pantries around the state are in desperate need of volunteers and of all types, particularly to do things such as Meals on Wheels distribution, stocking, shelving, turning over items in food pantries, things of that nature. They have sent a comprehensive spreadsheet that basically lists each of the colleges and each of the food banks and food pantries in the local areas by county that I will distribute after this meeting. And they are asking for any coordinated efforts or any of you to provide an update or announcement or encourage your students to participate in the food pantry or food bank that may be closest to your local community. And so you'll see Ms. Hardison's contact information is here. Once you see her email and her spreadsheet, I'm sure you'll be amazed by just how many different entities are scattered around our state. And there, I imagine, is an entity within driving distance of every college that is within a 30-minute radius. And so please keep that in mind as we begin the new year. And as you know, our students and other families and citizens of North Carolina may be struggling with the impact of COVID, etc. There are a few job postings floating around our system site that are there. These are just 2 that I wanted to quickly highlight. And so obviously, if you know of individuals that are seeking, or if you yourself are seeking, I encourage you to always check the updated postings on the system site. Of course, each of our colleges have their own HR sites as well, but these are 2 postings that I did want to share with the group. Lastly, and probably what's really most important as we move into the new year, is that travel and spending restrictions have been rescinded as of January 1st. And so some of those budget constraints that colleges were given have been lifted, and this should include both state, local fees as well. And so there was a memo that was sent out to all CFOs yesterday morning regarding the rescinding of these spending restrictions. And so as that information trickles down to your colleges, please make sure you touch base with your local chief financial officer on how that may impact you directly. Before I jump to our guest speaker, and because that question did come up, and we'll have questions at the end, of course, as well. Um, in regards to state board awards, student leadership, all that information will be in my presentation this afternoon. But I will share that state board awards at this time will be moving forward. They are working on the timeline for what that is going to look like in a virtual space. That's something that I think they have had to review what the application as well as interview and selection process will be. But all of that information will be in my presentation this afternoon. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jeff White. He is the Vice President for Diversity Diversity IT and Resources at NJCAA. And so he wanted to present this morning to each of you regarding esports opportunities for spring 21 and moving forward. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. White, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Dr. Evans, and thank you to the group for allowing me to be a part of what I'm assuming is probably the first meeting that you've had in 2021. So thrilled to be here. I want to make sure to throw this out up front. This is not a sales pitch. I realize that it's not uncommon to have speakers come and give presentations, and they're trying to sell you something. This is in no way, shape, or form a sales pitch. In fact, this is really going to be relatively informal. I really just want to make sure to provide some information. I know Derek Arnold and his institution is already a member of the NJCAA. And let me just take a quick step back. As Dr. Evans said, I'm the Chief Legal Counsel and I oversee IT, human resources, and operations on the traditional sports side. But for esports, I am the executive director for that separate legal entity. And so for those of you that offer traditional sports, you are likely already members of the NJCAA and probably quite familiar with that association. You may be aware that in 2019, excuse me, apologies. At the end of 2019, towards the end in July, we formed a separate legal entity. And the reason we did that is the issue of amateurism. We wanted to make sure that there was no confusion as it relates to the issue of amateurism between esports and traditional sports, because some of you may well know that it's not uncommon for there to be cash prizes, scholarships, and different kinds of hardware that may be available to esports participants. So that was really the driving force. And, on the traditional sports side, we heard from the membership, of which there are over 500 on the traditional side, that there was a real clamoring for esports. And so we started the association, and just last semester, and just our third semester, we had 72 total colleges, 485 rosters, 1,173 students, and 10 different titles of competition that we offered. And so for us, we offer something that's different than what any other association really offers, and that's the traditional collegiate structure and collegiate recognition and a national championship type track. We apply the same standards from an academics perspective. When I say that, I don't mean to suggest that all of the rules. So for those of you that have exposure to the athletics department, and I know Derek can speak to this. The rules are really convoluted on the traditional sports side, which stands to reason. The association's been around for 83 years, and so there are exceptions to exceptions. Our rules are very straightforward. Students need only be, and I should have mentioned, all of this information. Let me share this in the chat. All of the information I'm going to reference today is available on that website that I just posted in the chat. So I'm essentially just going to talk through this and open it up to any questions that anyone may have. But we've simplified the rules. What we recognize, I should have mentioned, I apologize, that prior to joining the NJCAA in 2019, I was a vice president for a variety of departments at a member college, a hockey and community college in Ohio. Prior to that, I worked at the as the director of human resources at the Supreme Court of Ohio. I've also worked for Eddie Bauer Corporate, a large healthcare facility in Central Ohio. All that to say, I have a pretty diverse professional background, but when I got to higher education, I quickly learned that it doesn't matter what your role is, whether you work directly in recruiting, um, or if you work, um, in the dining hall. Everyone is responsible for recruiting, retention, and completion. Every person on that campus plays a role. And so that really, for me, was the driving force between starting esports on our campus. I also had athletics, and saw the value and the impact that athletics had on the students that participated in the sports that we offered. And being a person that grew up playing traditional sports and video games, I understood the impact that bringing students into the fold, so to speak, of the campus and of the campus life, and giving them um, some connection to campus beyond being a student, um, is meaningful. I mean, I think I realize I'm preaching to the choir here, but an engaged student generally is a student that completes, and that's really what this is all about. Uh, Based on that, we've created really simple rules for eligibility. I We believe that that's significant because not only does that mean that the students understand what it takes to be eligible, but it's not unduly burdensome on the administrators that are responsible for overseeing the program. Because again, fortunately, being at a community college, I recognize, I'm sure everyone on this call wears multiple hats. Everyone always does. And so adding this additional responsibility to someone's plate, if it's something that's an onerous burden, then we want to make sure um, that that it's not, because right, that's a barrier to entry. And so that's really been our focus. And so generally speaking, it's really straightforward. For a first semester participant, they need only be registered for 12. Well, for the spring, we have a COVID exception. It's 6 credits. Generally, it's 12 credits, so it's full time enrollment. They don't need to be a high school graduate. It's whatever the institution deems to be a student in good standing that allows them to register for a full-time course load. That's the only requirement. For returning students, generally it's the only requirement is that they have completed 12 credits with a 2.0 prior, and the immediately preceding full-time semester. Um, Again, we have a COVID exception. We reduced it to 6 credits in the fall. It's reduced again to 6 credits here in the spring. So that means for this spring, a student could return, and so long as they had 6 credits with a 2.0, they're eligible to participate. And so again, from an eligibility perspective, the rules are very straightforward. We also approved 6 semesters of eligibility. And compare that to the traditional sports side, where it's 2 semesters. Now, the difference, one of the significant differences is that on the traditional sports side, sports are only going to be offered generally once a year. That's not the case on in esports. It's not uncommon, and in fact, it's likely that we're going to offer the same game title every semester. So what that means, generally, I mean, you can do the math. 6 semesters is likely going to be potentially 3 years. And again, the reason for that is this is a completion strategy. I mean, we know all too well that not all students complete in the 2-year time frame that is initially set out, just as 4-year students don't finish in 4 years. The other interesting change that we made that I failed to mention earlier is high school students are eligible to participate if they are a dual enrolled student. So forgive me, while our office is located here in Charlotte, North Carolina, I am a transplant to this area. In Ohio, we called it College Credit Plus, where we had high school students taking courses at the local community college. I'm not sure what the exact name is here in North Carolina, but I know that it exists. And so what that means is if you have high school students on your campus that are actually enrolled full time, they can participate in esports. And I believe that's significant, primarily because, at least in Ohio and what I've seen in most other states, is those dual enrolled students don't generally matriculate to the 2-year school. Those are generally 4-year students that go straight to the 4-year school. And when you tie in state funding models in Ohio and in many states, state funding is tied to completion and not enrollment. So in other words, having that student come to your campus, even if it's just for 1 semester to compete in esports, but they finish their associate's degree, that's going to be some state funding that your school is now eligible to receive, not to mention the obvious benefits to the student of completing that degree, the cost associated with, and all the other benefits that we all know exist. And so again, the logic was any reason we can provide students to go to the 2-year school to finish that degree before going to the 4-year school, it makes sense, right? There's already probably counselors and certainly parents telling the kids that going to the 2-year school is going to really reduce the cost of your education. Everyone, I'm sure, is well aware of all of the discussions that are out there right now on student loans and the issues that those create. And so we just wanted to create another path or another avenue that created opportunity for students to reduce the cost of that education. And frankly, it really just creates a real win-win, we believe, for everyone. And so there's a little bit of background, and I'll stop in far in advance of the end of the allotted time, to answer any questions that come up. Our spring registration is open as we speak. Right now, we are registering for the spring 2021 semester. That opened on January 1st and will run through January 27th. There are 3 different kinds of registration. I won't go into any of the detail there. If anyone obviously is interested in additional information, feel free to contact me, and I've shared some information with Dr. Evans on how you can go about gathering more information. And I can certainly connect you with our platform provider, Generation Esports. Generation Esports is formerly the High School Esports League. What we believe one of the significant benefits to partnering or joining the NJCAA is our partnership with high schools. The Generation Esports has over 3,000 high schools as part of their association. And so what we're doing is creating a recruiting pipeline from high school to community college and Generation Esports is actually adding middle school competition as well. So what we're going to see is the opportunity to engage students from middle school to high school to community college to alumni status and beyond, so that we can create this, from a student's perspective, a natural progression from high school to the local community college, because they're going to know players on the team, they're going to know the coaches. From a recruiting perspective, just like traditional sports, it will make sense for the community colleges to partner up and identify local high schools to provide talent for their programs. And so that's something we're really excited about. We have essentially all of the major game titles that that are of interest in the world of gaming. We have Overwatch, Super Smash Brothers. This semester we have FIFA 21. We have Rainbow Six. We have Hearthstone. We have Call of Duty. We have Rocket League. We have NBA 2K, Counter-Strike Go, and Valorant. So you can see we cover the team-based objective games like Overwatch, the first-person shooter games that are incredibly popular, and the sports titles as well. And so our focus is, again, on removing as many barriers to entry as possible, and providing as many opportunities for engagement from a campus perspective as we possibly can. Our regular season is going to run from January 31st through April 10th. We'll have, at this point, we're looking at likely 1 week of playoffs, and then we'll have our national championship. So we did something in the fall that no other association has done, at least that I'm aware of. We live streamed all of our events, which is nothing new. But what we did that no one else has done is we had member institutions actually handle all of the streaming, because we recognize that esports isn't just about playing the games. We are the only STEM.org accredited association. We are committed to academics. We realize that there are lots of high schools out there that are STEM.org accredited. And there are a growing number of colleges and community colleges that are becoming STEM.org accredited. Our perspective is any other connective tissue we can create between high schools and community colleges to feed students, whether it be academically or competitively, to those programs makes sense. And so again, just as it makes it a more seamless transition if I know players and coaches from an esports perspective, if I know students and instructors and the local STEM programs, that makes that transition even more seamless. And so that's something that we were very interested in trying to do there. So, but even beyond just STEM programs, when we're talking about jobs, and frankly, that's what I think we'd all acknowledge. That's what higher education. That's one of the primary focuses, right? Is to prepare people for careers. Jobs in esports doesn't mean playing the game. It doesn't just mean playing the game competitively. There are now shoutcasters. There's production. Um, there's platform creation. There's the software piece. There's the security piece. There's so many different aspects to what esports can provide from a professional perspective. And so we wanted to create an opportunity beyond the competition for our members and allowing them to handle the entire production was something that was really exciting, because for students that are going to be doing the streaming and the casting, this is likely the most exposure they're ever going to receive or have ever received to date. We have a partnership with ESTV, which is Esports TV. It's the only 24/7 linear esports channel. Um, and our events are going to be tape delayed. They don't stream live, but they should be airing on there within the next week or two. And of course, that's available via an app all around the world. And so we've had some other events on there and seen some really good traction. So we're really excited about that. Our membership dues, and I believe a lot of this information was already attached to the invite, but our membership dues are $1,500 annually. Again, that is a cost that is the lowest of any association that's out there. We want, again, it's all about barriers to entry. We believe the value proposition that we offer really puts us in a position conceivably to charge a much higher rate, but that's not our interest. Our interest is in making sure that that everyone that has an interest in esports has the ability to do it. The last thing I'll say before turning it over to answer any questions is um, all credit to Derek Arnold for pointing out something that we realized was a gap in our services that we are working to address. What we've recognized is not everyone is necessarily interested in taking the collegiate competitive track. There are many institutions across the United States that are more interested in an intramural solution. So Derek was kind enough to point that out. And so I am actually actively working with our partner Generation Esports to create what we're calling, or what I've deemed, the total esports solution. So what we're going to build, and I anticipate it will be ready for fall 2021, is that total esports solution. And what that means is for a fee, and we haven't set the fee yet, colleges will have access to the collegiate competitive track and to the intramural track. The intramural track, of course, will be vastly different than the collegiate competitive track, because the collegiate competitive track is just that. It's competitive. It's legitimate collegiate competition. It requires oversight. There are compliance and eligibility rules and so forth that I've already mentioned in a little detail. The intramural track is just that. It's just like intramural sports on your campus. So whomever you allow to participate in intramural sports on your campus will have the ability to participate if you opt in to our total esports solution. And so it will be low maintenance. It'll be, I would argue, probably lower maintenance than traditional intramurals, because you're not going to be responsible for finding officials or tracking down faculty to go and umpire the game because you couldn't find someone to cover it. And so lots more information coming on that, and additional details as they really get set. But we're really close to launching that. And again, all credit to Derek Arnold for pointing that out. So I realize I just shared a lot of information, and some of you may have some questions. So Dr. Evans, unless you have any specific questions, I really wanted to provide more of an opportunity for the group to ask any questions that they may have.
Thank you, Mr. White. The only thing I'd ask you to share with the group is really the time in which it would take from interest to inquiry to getting started, and then we'll open the floor up for anyone to just unmute themselves and chime in.
Sure. So for anyone that was interested in starting this spring, you actually have time for that. I'm assuming that most of your campuses are pretty close to 100% remote, except for any of those programs that may require lab hours or in-person hours. That's the beauty of esports. We have the play from anywhere, bring your own device model. So what that means is an institution theoretically could do nothing more than spend the $1,500 for the membership dues, and then provide the opportunity to students that already have equipment. And here's the thing: students that are participating in esports already have the equipment because they're already playing wherever they live, whether it be in dorms, at home, wherever that is. And so that said, Um, it doesn't take, we've seen campuses do that, do nothing more than spend $1,500 and just turn it over to their students, because most of this is self-serve. And what I mean by that is we have a scheduled date or day and time for each game title. So students are going to know in advance what day of the week and what time of day they're scheduled to play. And it doesn't change on a weekly basis. And so the only requirement, of course, is that they go to the platform and they sign in, and then it's just like playing any other game online. Now that said, that that is not the grand vision, so to speak. When the world returns to whatever normal looks like, and we're all back on campuses, we certainly envision this being treated just like a traditional sport, where there's a dedicated space, coaching, advising, and so on. So whatever model is in place now for traditional sports athletes can easily, probably more easily, be transplanted for esports students. The one thing I would throw out there is what we've seen is there has been such significant interest on a lot of these campuses. It would probably be wise to focus in on just a couple of game titles initially, um, because otherwise you may find you have hundreds of students that want to do this, and it can quickly grow into something, which is a great thing, right? I mean, it's great to have that kind of interest, but you just want to make sure that whatever you're building is scalable. We are partnered with a group called Uni Esports, who specializes really in, one of their specialties is is surveys and statistical analysis of those surveys. So measuring campus interest, helping to assess where that interest lies, what game titles, and then the fundamentals of building a program. But again, if anyone wanted to start for the spring, it's really as simple as paying those dues, meeting with, it's a 10 to 15 minute process to get yourself registered on the platform, and then announcing it to your student body. If we're talking fall 2021, there is ample time for that. And again, you could really go about doing that in a variety of ways. Some really basic, whether you use SurveyMonkey or JotForm or whatever tool it is that you use on your campus to send out surveys, and I'm sure all of you probably have some sort of tool on your campus to do that. Very basic esports surveys just to see if there's interest, and if so, in what titles. I think you'll find that there's really significant interest. And if you wanted to take that approach to build something for the fall, I could certainly see that working as well.
Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's open the floor for those questions either in the chat box or unmute yourself and let's go for it.
So Dr. Evans, if it's okay, as I see questions pop in, I see Michael McGee just posted one. I'm happy to address those as they come through, and then anything else, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So can students set a time to play? They need to work around classes. Absolutely. We set the day and time for the games as a matter of convenience and planning for exactly what you're describing, Mr. McGee. But students, participants have the ability to work with their opponent to schedule any day and time in that week to play at a mutually agreeable time. The game times, let me pull up this page. And again, the times are all in the evening. So games start at 5 p.m. Eastern. They run whether they start at either 5, 6, or 7 p.m. Eastern. And recognition, understood, and we certainly understand that some students take some evening classes. But yes, that flexibility does exist. So I see there's a question from Sabrina Bowman regarding the first person shooters. Do your campuses have to approve that with administration, since those games are rated mature and the nature of the games? Ms. Bowman, that's a great question. And full disclosure, we've certainly had Some campuses decide not to participate in those titles because they believe perhaps they're too violent or too mature. The answer to your question is yes, absolutely. That's going to be a campus by campus decision. We and I'll tell you, we wrestled initially with the idea of offering those game titles, but ultimately, again, we wanted this to be as open and inclusive as we possibly could. And with the huge popularity of those games, we didn't want to limit our members' ability to grow their campus if that's something. If those games are something that they were interested in. And certainly, we also did a little bit of research and learned a little bit more about that. And that was one of the great benefits of partnering with Generation Esports is they've been in the space for 7 years. And so, um, there really aren't any studies that we could find that showed any kind of causal link between playing a video game and higher episodes of violence. And so that was something that we were comfortable offering moving forward. So when signing up, our campus is able to choose from absolutely. Yes. So all of the game titles that are there, you opt into which games that you want to have. And I'll tell you, I don't know that we have any campus that offers all 10 titles. It's really going to be a mix of the different titles. Some of the titles are more easy to recruit for than others. So Overwatch, for example, is a six member team, objective based game. Whereas a game like NBA 2K, FIFA, Madden, Super Smash Brothers, those are, and I should have added, Overwatch is on the PC. All the other games I just listed are console based. Um, oh, I see Brian Anweiler is on here. Brian is actually one of our board members for the NJCAA and was recently down at his facility and was very impressed with what they've put together there. But anyway, yes, Ms. Bowman, to answer your question, you are certainly able to choose. We have some schools that have only started with 1 or 2 games. We have others that do 6 or 7. I mean, we have roster sizes that range from 4 to just about 100. Tiffany Scooby, I hope, or Scalby. Apologies if I butchered your name there. Yes, anywhere cross-platform is offered, we support it. Obviously, so Super Smash Brothers is on the Switch. That's the only place that's available. Games that are PC based only are on the PC. But anywhere else, if cross-platform is available, we offer that. One of the nice things about the Xbox, of course, is that if you have a PC, you can play Xbox games on the PC as well. So that's one of the benefits of using that student, or excuse me, of using the PCs. That Ms. Bowman, that's a great question, and I can't believe I didn't mention that. How many students can participate to stay under the $1,500 bracket? It is unlimited. And Ms. Bowman, don't apologize. I appreciate the questions because I'm sure there are things I wanted to say that I forgot to say. For $1,500, it is unlimited access to as many game titles as you want, for as many students as you want, for as many teams as you want. So first and foremost, a student can play as many game titles as the college is willing to allow them to play. We provide the minimum threshold. And so if a school or if a member wants to institute a more restrictive rule, we don't have any issues with that. So in other words, we have no limitations on the number of game titles a student can play. But if a school says, two games, 2 nights a week, that's too much, or 3 games, 3 nights a week, that's too much. We're going to cap it at 2. That's an institutional decision. Or if a member wanted to say, we don't think a 2.0 is high enough, it needs to be a 2.5 on our campus, that's fine too. We would have no issues with that. Also, even if you had, so Rocket League is a very popular game, and I'll be the first to admit, the idea of playing soccer with race cars is a bit strange to me, but it is an incredibly popular game. It's a 3-player game. If you had 9 individuals on your campus that wanted to play the game, you can have 3 teams. There's no limit to the number of teams that you can offer. So again, when I say that we built this to be as open and inclusive as possible, we think we're putting our money where our mouth is. We are really opening this up to everyone. Um, how is what you are offering different from Mission Control and their esports platform? That's from Gilbert Umberger. Mr. Umberger, thank you for asking that question. We are substantially different from Mission Control. Mission Control simply offers intramural and nothing more. And so if at this point, so for example, for this spring, if all you're interested in is intramural, then um, then we're not going to be the option for you. Um, Now, I will say that come fall and moving forward, we will have intramural and the collegiate competitive piece. And the difference between that is we're going to offer national championships. We're going to have LAN events. We're going to have other standalone events. We've got a recruiting event that is free to our members to participate in at the end of this month. We have a variety of other events throughout the semester that are free for members and students to participate in. And so, and I should say, I in no way mean to. I'm not all that familiar with Mission Control, other than I know that their offerings are limited to sort of a self-service intramural solution. Let's see, are there any other questions? Perfect. And just, I guess, for as another point of clarification, I mean, we award national championship trophies just like the traditional sports side. The institution will receive one. The players will receive them. They are recognized as national champions. We have approved the design of our NJCAA website. We're working on the last steps of integration with the platform for a few other pieces of information. I share that because what you'll see very soon, and I wish I could have shared it today, is a website that looks and feels exactly like a traditional sports website with the same kind of recognition and statistical analysis that you would see on the traditional side. We are, without question, the fastest growing collegiate esports association. Take NACE, for example. NACE has been around for, I believe, 3 or 4 years, and they're just over 100 members. We anticipate being at least 125 members in our 4th semester. So we are growing rapidly. We have, actually, am I able to share my screen, Dr. Evans?
Yes, sir. You should be able to. If not, let me see. If not, give me just 1 second. Yes, you should. There should be a small TV box with an arrow next to your mic.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. So this is our webpage, and I just wanted to show this membership directory. I just wanted to give you to show where our members are in just 3 semesters. So we're already covering all time zones. We're in conversations with the Northwest Athletic Conference for all of their 30 members to join, for with the 3C 2A for California schools to join. And the reason why I share that is to say what we intend to ultimately build is a regional structure very similar to the traditional sports model, where theoretically all of you on this call would be a region, and your regular season play could theoretically be against each other, and then into a national structure and a national tournament or pro championship, where you have regional champions, division champions, and so on. And so we're very excited about where this is going and how we're getting there. Let's see, another question came in. That means any incoming students for student will not be eligible unless they took No. So if it's an incoming student, they need only be registered for 6 credits in the current semester if it's a new student. So the question is, the distinction is between new students and returning students. Any new student, first semester student, doesn't have to satisfy the returning student criteria, if that makes sense. Discuss the process surrounding verification of grades and enrollment. What happens if a student's enrollment status changes mid-semester? Yes, thank you, Dr. Evans, for pointing that out. So the eligibility and compliance process happens, to Dr. Evans' point, prior to the commencement of the semester or of competition. And so there is no requirement that anything be submitted to the national office for verification or review. You'll see that when you register your team on the platform, you essentially check a box that acknowledges that every player meets or exceeds minimum eligibility standards. And so we, just like the NCAA, the NAIA, the NJCAA, we have adopted an audit compliance model. So what that means is we are not proactively going in and verifying every single student's piece of information. Just like all of those other major associations, we use the audit process. We randomly select members throughout every semester to audit their records. And if and when we find an issue, we address it at that point. But to Dr. Evans' point, if for some reason a student's enrollment status changes mid-semester, just like it is with traditional sports, the onus would be on the esports administrator to, if necessary, remove them from competition. Just like, so basketball is a great example, right? Because that's a 2-semester sport. So it's not uncommon on the traditional side. It's not uncommon for a student to be eligible to participate in the fall, but then not eligible to participate in the spring for whatever reason. And so in those instances, those students just don't participate in that second semester. We don't have currently any 2-semester sports, but if something were to change with enrollment status or a grade change or something else that would make someone ineligible, the expectation would be just that the administrator would remove them mid-semester. We also utilize a tool called Discord. Some of you may be familiar with that. For those of you that are my age or older, just think back to when the internet first started and you had the old message boards where you could post messages and interact with folks. That's what Discord is, and it's free. It is heavily used. We have over 1,000 people on our Discord server. It is a fantastic forum for all of our coaches, because what we've learned is there's a lot of there are really 2 categories of administrators that I've found in esports. There are administrators that are experienced and skilled in higher education and administration, but don't know the first thing about esports. And there are those that know a lot about esports, but have very little professional experience or administrative experience. And so we've taken steps to really try to fill that void. We've partnered with the National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors, or NACAD. And the reason for that partnership is we wanted to provide access to our members to this organization that provides educational opportunities and networking opportunities for everyone. So if you don't know a lot about esports, an opportunity to learn more about esports, or if you're not all that experienced professionally, the opportunity to work with other professionals that have a little bit more experience to help you in that regard. What we've also done now, fortunately, we've because we've grown so quickly, we've been able to create a committee structure. And so we have a variety of committees. We have an advisory committee. We have a competition committee. We have a sportsmanship committee, and the sportsmanship committee is really more focused on compliance and eligibility. We have an equity and inclusion committee, and we have an a recruitment and membership committee. And so the recruitment and membership committee is the one that I really wanted to bring up more than any at this point, because their focus is on helping new members with onboarding and getting acclimated to the world of esports, because again, it is a little different. While there is some upfront cost, just as there is with any sport, the beauty of esports, of course, is there's very limited travel. And so in the grand scheme of things, especially when you compare, theoretically, you can have roster sizes in esports that are as large, if not larger, than a football team at a fraction of the cost. I've joked on several meetings and calls that sometimes an athletic director's worst fear is that their team is better than they thought and they're going to make the playoffs because they haven't budgeted for it. Now suddenly, especially if you're talking about a football program, I need $30,000 or $40,000 for them to travel to a game that I didn't budget for. And so, how do we go about doing that? Let's see, are there any other questions that are out there? Oh, excuse me. It is worth noting with our equity and inclusion efforts, we are going to be announcing, just as we did on the traditional sports side, a partnership with Rise, which is a group that's focused on equity and inclusion in traditional sports. They are really excited to work with us because they have not ventured into the esports space. And so as soon as I started the conversation with them, they were very excited. So we will be really the test case for that group to start building an equity and inclusion, a national equity and inclusion program. And of course, the one last quick comment I'll make is this: we recognize that in the world of esports, it is gender dominated, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, from a male gender dominated. And so we are really focusing on other every avenue or aspect we can take to make sure that it's as open and inclusive for all genders. And so we're focusing on different kinds of events, different kinds of game titles and initiatives that are really going to promote a more inclusive and open competition. I don't see any other questions that have rolled in. Are there any other questions out there that I have not answered? Do the game titles change each year? Yeah, we're absolutely going to make sure that we're offering whatever titles are the most sought after. And I thank you again for asking that. I would have been remiss if I hadn't mentioned we actually also work with Riot Games. So our members have the ability to participate in League of Legends. And so what we're working towards is actually creating an automatic play-in opportunity for our association champion to be in the League of Legends championship moving forward. I'll say this, as an attorney, I have reviewed thousands of contracts and been a part of thousands of negotiations. Working with game publishers is very different, and it's because no one really has any leverage with them. When we're talking about these kinds of competition and all of these associations, it's a very small piece of what they do, because of course they're selling these game titles all across the world. And so it creates a really interesting dynamic. And so it took us about 9 months to get to where we are with Riot. And I fully anticipate, because of the sheer size of our association, that we're going to have the ability to have some automatic plans for that title. But yes, the short answer to your question, Ms. Bowman, is that yes, game titles, we will make sure to offer whatever is the most popular.
Before we conclude, Mr. White, definitely thank you for your time and expertise. You wanted me to remind you about the meeting later this week for current members, and if individuals wanted to participate in that and follow up and receive more information. Will you just briefly mention that?
You got it. Thank you for the reminder, Dr. Evans. Tomorrow at 3:30, we are hosting a spring 2021 information session for current members and anyone else that just wants to go into a bit more of a deeper dive of information. So you'll hear a lot of the information I talked about today, but there will be a bit more detail as to some of the processes for registration and things of that nature. There will actually be a demonstration of registering on the platform. Again, it's all very straightforward. There's also going to be each committee is going to provide an update for the kind of work that they've been doing. The one thing I'll say is this. The last thing I'll say is we take great pride in being a member-driven association. I recognize as the executive director for the association, I'm but a steward of the association. We are so focused on the student experience and the member experience. So that said, we have and one thing that's different with video games and esports than traditional sports is um, the rules by game. I mean, we have completely overhauled our rules from the fall to the spring to mirror what our members want, and we're doing that um, through these committees. I saw that. How do we get an invite to this meeting? Immediately following this call here, I will send an email to Dr. Evans to distribute and disseminate how he sees fit. That will have all of the details you need to join. But again, it's tomorrow from 3:30 to 5:30. You certainly don't have to be there for the whole part. Once your school's registered on the website, the students are added to Student Center for all they want to participate in, or as the administrator has to sign them up each week. Now, so once you register a team at the beginning of the semester, and then once you do that, you don't have to do anything else in terms of signing them up. It's a semester by semester registration though. So the process is this: a school sign, and this is really high level. The school registers with the NJCAA. Students then create accounts on the platform, and this is all very, very straightforward. It's not as complicated as it may sound. And once the students have done that, um, the administrator can then go in and assign students to teams. Can students be added late, or they have registered meetings? So they can add late. And obviously the only issue with that is if they do, they may not be able to make the playoffs if they haven't had enough weeks of competition. But we want to make sure that we're making this and I know I sound like a broken record, as inclusive as possible. And we want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to participate. You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions while we have the executive director on the line with us this morning? You will not find anyone more knowledgeable about this than the person sitting in front of you. So if there's a question that's still burning on your heart and your mind, please, please, please ask it before we conclude. I'll pause for a minute.
And Dr. Evans, while during the pause, I'll just say, feel free. I think everyone may already have my email address. If you don't, Dr. Evans, please feel free to share it. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm on calls like this, meetings like this pretty regularly, and answer lots of questions. Great question, Ms. Bowman. It's actually $1,500 per year. So you're not going to find, I dare say this, I know I said this wasn't a sales call. Um, you're not going to find a better value um, in terms of or return on investment from an engagement strategy. Right now, there are no summer programs. We're considering that, but because traditional sports doesn't offer and enrollment is typically much lower. But our intramural solution is going to provide us with that opportunity. And the other thing that we'll be able to do is offer more standalone events, so various competitions and tournaments, but there will not be a national championship track during the summer. So I should have said academic year. So a fall spring. There are not. At this point, I'm so glad you asked that question. Um, right now, obviously, everything has been remote. If and when, whatever normal looks like moving forward, if we can have LAN events or live events, we're going to have them. In fact, some of you may have heard, I know Mr. Anweiler is aware, if we can have a live event in the fall, or excuse me, in the spring, our national championships are going to be hosted in Raleigh. Long term, this is what the long term goal is this. We want to secure enough sponsorship and partnership dollars that our members never have to pay to travel to any of our events. We are not in that situation or that position now. But again, long term, the idea would be that if you qualify for a national championship, that the National Association is going to pay for you to get there. But unfortunately, we're just with it being just our third semester, we're not there yet. But so there wouldn't be fees, there would be travel. But if it's not a live event, no, there are no fees.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Whoop. Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's after the 11 o'clock hour. I definitely like to thank you for your time and participation this morning. I definitely want to give thanks to Derek Arnold and Mr. White for really bringing this venue together and allowing him and us to share information regarding esports opportunities. I know that many of you are still in the question phase and really trying to figure things out. And so we do have some great resources here in the state. As Mr. White said, his office is in Charlotte. So he's someone that is easily to find and track down. And you all already have all of his contact information, and I can reshare it if you do not. Thank you. Please stay safe as we move forward for the remainder of the spring semester. Thank you, as always, for all the things that you do for our students in our system. And stay tuned for more information and updates as I send out not only the recording of this meeting this afternoon, but some additional information for our presentation. And with that, I'll say have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.